Good morning, friends, and welcome to the pre-market view. US markets managed to close in positive territory after almost about 100 points kind of a cut during the course of the day. The 10-year bond yields there continues to hover around 2.57, and most of the market participants are focusing on the Fed policy, which is going to happen tomorrow, and more importantly, the stance that Mr. Ben Bernanke has in terms of tapering down and in terms of kind of accommodative monetary policy he's talking about is something that the global markets are going to watch out for, because that is what is going to decide the direction of the flows towards the emerging markets. European markets were mixed. CAC was up almost about 0.3%, but the rest of the markets were down almost about 0.5%. More importantly, the auto sector in Eurozone actually was down, and most of the important auto stocks were down anywhere from about 3 to 5%. Maybe because the overall outlook in auto sales has not been that encouraging. In terms of the Asian markets today morning, when we look at it, Japan is down almost about 2.5%, and most of the other markets, be it Hang Seng or China, even Korea and Taiwan, are down anywhere from 0.3 to 0.5%. So the Asian market cues have not been that great, but SGX Nifty is suggesting that we are going to have a flat start around 5920 odd levels. In terms of flows, friends, FIs were net buyers in the cash market to the tune of about 178 crore. The domestic institutions were sellers to the tune of about 289 crore. And in the index futures, FIs were net sellers to the tune of about 195 crore. Back home, our markets continue to languish, and more so the banking sector in particular continues to slide down, and we also had some disappointing set of numbers coming out from PNB and couple of other PSU banks. So overall sentiment there is definitely weak, and the market is clearly going to be focusing on the RBI policy meet, which is going to be there tomorrow. But since the current steps which have been taken by RBI are just not helping the rupee in a major way, market does not have any major expectations in terms of interest rate cut. On that note, let me invite Shaival to take us through important F&O cues, data and strategies that we can have in the F&O markets.
Good morning, friends. Let's have a view at derivatives. Friends, after the carnage in the expiry session, we have seen that on Friday's market have almost been flat and has ended on a negative note. But now during this course of time, we have seen that on the very first day, marginal long positions have been accumulated in the market. Now talking about the PCR ratio started the current series with 1, and in Friday's trade it remained unchanged, as we have seen that the activity on both call as well as put side has been well placed and is at par. Now it's clearly visible from the option matrix as the activity is widespread, and 6,000 call options stands with the highest number of shares in the current option matrix, whereas if we have a look on the activity on the put side, 5,800 put options stands with highest number of shares in the open interest. But interestingly, 5,900 call as well as put option has been seeing a good amount of activity taking place in the market ahead of the RBI's policy tomorrow. So this would be the level which we need to watch on the closing basis. Now talking about the weekly VWAP, our weekly VWAP is at 6,000. Our overall bias for the market is negative as we are trading below this, and on lower side the range from the weekly perspective would be 5850. On the higher side it would be 6,000, as this is the weekly VWAP level also, and 6,000 call option is also having highest number of shares in the open interest. So this level might act as a hurdle for the market. Now if market sees some bounces, then we may see some selling pressure emerging in the market. And from intraday perspective, Shriram Transport Finance is looking negative. So one can go short by maintaining a stop loss of 654 rupees 35 paisa. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. First of all, the companies which will be announcing numbers. JP Associates, we are looking at a net profit of about 110 crore. Colgate Palmolive, 133 crore. IDFC, we are looking at a net profit of about 462 crore. Ultratech Cement, 621 crore. And Allahabad Bank, about 303 crore. Wipro came out with a good set of numbers on Friday. The operating performance for this quarter was in line with expectations, and actually market really was enthused by the kind of dollar revenue guidance that the company has given for the next quarter, wherein they are looking at a growth of almost about 2 to 3.88%, which is the aggressive guidance which Wipro has given in the recent past. So expect some positive reaction to the Wipro guidance in today's market also. Prime Minister is likely to meet the industry drivers today in terms of their plans to reduce the current account deficit, more reforms that the government is looking at doing, the rupee stability part. So there is going to be some kind of a discussion. So we may have some indications about what the government is likely to do in terms of further steps for the reforms. And because there is going to be a RBI policy meet tomorrow, today the economic report is going to be submitted, which would not have any material impact on the market, because there is a very low expectations from the market in terms of the interest rate cut or the liquidity easing, because of the kind of steps that the RBI has taken to curb the liquidity to stabilize the rupee. For pharma companies operating in US, some negative news, as US FDA has actually increased its requirement for the submission of data, and that has actually gone up almost about 3 times. So this could be a bit of a negative for some of the companies which are focusing on the generic space, particularly companies like Sun Pharma, Lupin, even something like Ipca Laboratories, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. One will have to assess the impact of the increased cost for some of these companies, but sentimentally this is a bit negative. SpiceJet is in advanced stage of discussion with a potential investor for a stake sale. So watch out for some positive action in the SpiceJet stock. And also in case of Lanco Infra, which has a debt burden of almost about 46,200 crore, is talking to lenders for restructuring to the tune of about 7,500 crore of debt. So a bit of a negative for Lanco, and more so for the banking sector, where this kind of an amount is going to come up for restructuring. Tata Steel is looking at acquiring the iron ore mine of a British company called Stemcor, which is a mine in Orissa, and JSW also has expressed interest in the same asset. So some positive action is possible in Tata Steel. And as far as Jet Etihad deal is concerned, the FIPB meeting is going to take place today, wherein because of this revised agreement which has been drafted, some kind of a clarity could emerge on this particular deal, because Etihad has actually diluted some of its requirements in terms of agreement, in terms of appointing the board members and other related matters. Ambuja Cement, where there is a controversy around the recent deal that the Holcim has announced, LIC, which has about 5% stake, may oppose this deal as a minority shareholder. Coming to the stock specific news, expect some positive action in ONGC, as Reliance Industries and ONGC have signed an initial agreement to consider sharing of the KG-D6 basin infrastructure. So one can go long on ONGC with a stop loss of 298 and a target of about 313 to about 319. Dr. Reddy's is looking at launching 3 products in the US market called Ericpet, Efferox and XR and FMRA in US markets. Also, they have already launched a product called Donepezil. So expect some positive action in Dr. Reddy's with a stop loss of 2248 and a target of about 2360 to about 2404. That's it from all of us, friends. Have a good trading session. See you tomorrow at the same time.